Hey, what's up guys? My name is Moda and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. Today's video, going to do our monthly ASIC pricing update. This will be for July 2023. It's going to look at some price changes, going to look at some things that actually went up, some things that went down, what kind of the overall best buys are, and what things are looking like, right? So if that sounds good guys, stay tuned, all right? So let's get to it. So first off, let's start just by looking at the market, right? See where we're heading, what we're looking at, especially compared to last month, right? Which in reality is kind of almost a whole different world. Last month, things were looking pretty bearish. We were in the mid 20s and looking like things were possibly going to go lower. But ultimately, we've had good news these past few weeks, mainly because of all these ETFs potentially coming, right? When they get approved, might be quite a while, but just the interest is what's getting everybody's attention, right? So because of that, we've had very good price action, right? We've been hovering in the 30s. Today, we just had a CPI print, so we did go up for a little bit. It looks like we're back down to where we were yesterday. But overall, things are looking much, much better, at least right now. And at least for BTC and ETH, right? Those have been holding up the best. Not necessarily the case with alts though, right? So we're going to talk about just one thing to keep in mind, right? This doesn't necessarily mean this is going to happen, but just something to keep in mind, mainly because I do primarily focus on a lot of the altcoin miners, right? Especially with the ASICs. So just as a quick comparison, you really have to think about the Bitcoin dominance, right? You have to look at it like what's happened so far. A good gauge to see what's happening is just look at what's been happening since the beginning of this year, right? Pretty much happened right from day one, right? So with like BTC, for example, beginning of the year, we're at 16,600. We're nearly double, right? So our price action has been nice. It's been going up. Not necessarily the case with a lot of the alts, right? If we look at one, this is going to point to the one that most of us miners are most familiar with. Let's look at Doge, right? Where are we at since the beginning of the year? Well, beginning of the year, we were at, let's go right over it, right around 7 cents. Where are we at currently? Under that, 0.064, okay? We all know what happens when BTC goes down even like 5%, right? Alts typically get hit harder. From where we're at right now, BTC has been going up pretty significant. A lot of these alts have not been keeping up. A lot of these alts are actually still at their lows. Okay, so keep in mind for the potential, if we do have a retracement, if BTC does, let's say, go down 20% or goes down to like 25, 26K, how hard these potentially may get hit, right? Again, none of this is financial advice. It's just something to be mindful of, right? So again, depending on where you think the price action is going, it's going to affect a lot of these prices, right? We know that the price of the asset directly affects the price of the miner, right? So just something to keep in mind, just depending on where you think the market is going, right? If you think we're up and to the right only from here because all this ETF stuff, then disregard, right? But if you're kind of unsure or you're in the mindset that there might be a retracement sometime between now and the end of the year, which is where I'm at, something to just take note of, right? Especially if you're doing your calculations on projections for profits, etc. Keep that in mind, right? So now let's get to some of the good stuff. Let's start with some funny tweets from Bitmain actually for these past few weeks. One is this one that they posted a spot sale for the D9. Reason it's funny is because it has literally been nowhere near the MSRP of $8,500 for the past 3 months, right? It's pretty much at that price, did not sell, and all the resellers have been dropping by $1,500, $1,000 every month consistently because they cannot get rid of these things, right? So it's pretty funny that they decided just a few days ago to drop a spot sale for $8,500, right? Don't know what's up with that, but something to take note of because all the other vendors have it. I think the highest is like 4,500, right? It's anywhere from like 3,500 to 4,500. So again, pretty funny that they're that out of touch with where the actual price of it should be, right? Another funny tweet was they decided to try to take advantage of this recent LTC pump and also just the news that the halving is coming, right? So there's been a little bit of hype with LTC as of late, and they decided to do another spot sale for the 9050s, right? Which is kind of funny because, you know, we had been seeing these clearance sales and this is the last time, etc., etc. Yet here we are. So the price after the coupons, though, shows that the prices may go down a little bit, right? We know that the MSRP lately has not been the price that they're putting, but it's essentially 30% off from there. Typically, after that coupon price is what a lot of the resellers have been selling at. So the 9050 at around 4100, 4200, 4300 is actually not that bad of a price, right? So just something to keep note of if you're still in the market. We'll talk about the prices here in a second. Overall, profitability-wise, just in general, pretty much a repeat of last month. Not a whole lot has changed. Just the KS3 has been dropping, right? Difficulty on Kaspa has been going up. One funny thing, though, is that the price of the KS3 has actually been dropping. Some good news for you Ice River guys is that a lot of the vendors, not just BT miners, but I was checking out a few of the other ones, they are listing 2 batches. They are listing an August batch as well as a September batch now, right? So that kind of bodes well because, again, the longer these guys get delayed, the better it is for you Ice River guys. I'll be rooting for you. Did not jump in, but for those of you guys who took that crazy ass plunge and jumped in, it's looking like it's going to work out for you. So again, they do have the 2 batches, and the September batch is already lower, right? It's down to 36,000, and a lot of the other vendors are also in line with that, right? A lot of them are down to that range. Ice River has consistently been lowering their prices as they sell out of batches. Everything goes down by like $1,000, $100 or whatever. So it's going to be interesting to see if they continue that trend and if these things get pushed out a bit longer and it forces Bitmain to reduce their prices even further, right? The one I'm kind of eyeing, not necessarily interested in, but I'm just kind of like eyeing the price is like KS3L to see how much they lower that, because technically if they were to do a significant price reduction, it's going to force Bitmain to do as well, right? Because so far it does seem like even though they may produce X amount of units, it's not going to matter unless they sell them, right? They can put the price of whatever they want, but again, they need to be sold. We'll see how it looks. Right now, it's not looking like too many people are buying, right? I think a lot of people are just in anticipation that the price may go down, just depending on price action, on the difficulty, see where everything goes. But just something to keep note of. Not necessarily one I'm looking at buying, but it's fascinating, right? This whole thing with these Kaspa ASICs, it's mind-blowing how crazy of an opportunity for any of the guys who got in early was, right? And still is, potentially. And it's just crazy to see how it's going to play out, right? I find it super, super fascinating. So let's get to some real prices now, though. One that did tick up a little bit are the L7s, right? And a lot of it's going to have to do with the hype of the Litecoin halving, and Litecoin's actually been having a little pump. Will it continue? Probably not. Historically, if you look at Litecoin, they tend to pump prior to the halving and then dump afterwards, right? So a lot of these guys are just taking advantage. Didn't go up by much, a couple $100, but it is something to take note, right? So they have the lower end now at 42.50, the 9050 at 46.48. They do have used listings. I'm not sure if they have them in stock. Last time they were out of stock. They do have listings for all of them. Not sure if they have them in stock. If it's something you're interested in, I would email them to confirm that they have them. But I used 85.50 at $3,600. Not too bad, right? So just something to take note of there. This is a big one. This is another nice drop on the E9 Pro, right? And it's on this lower end model, right? It's not the 3680, which is typical, which is 2400, which is on par, but it's the lower end model. Bang for the buck. This would be the one to get, in my opinion. $1,800, guys, right? So it went down over another like 10%, okay? At this point, it's creeping up to the point where you can almost get 2 E9 Pros for one of the Jazz miners, those X16Qs, right? So something to keep note. We'll see how low they go, and we'll see if they release that firmware to be able to dual mine with ZIL, right? Rumor mill spilling up there. I want to wait until we get actual confirmation, but looks like something might be brewing there as well. Just something to take note of. But 1,800 bucks, pretty good price. We'll see if it goes much lower, right? Again, a lot of these price points, guys, are pretty freaking good. And at this point, it's like there's not a whole lot of room for them to go down, right? Again, time will tell. Maybe in a month from now, we have a black swan, everything tanks for a while, and maybe there's more opportunity there. But got to keep these things in mind. It's like, realistically, how much lower is it going to go, right? Just pretty freaking crazy price. The X16Q actually from BT Miners did drop a little bit, right? It's now under 3,000. It's at 29.90. So there's some early batches that are out now. I think typically most of them are going to be this August batch. So just curious to see how well they sell, right? Again, Bitmain is really putting the pressure on them with these price reductions, right? Again, this guy used to be much closer to this price, and at that point, this guy was definitely more appealing, but just because of how cheap these are, and again, to me, this is 100% been their strategy, is to go as low as they can to put the squeeze on Whatsminer, right? Because at this price point, it is kind of high, especially just because of how much these guys have dropped, right? Is it going to force Whatsminer to lower their prices? Potentially, just depends on how well these things sell. Right? If they sell well, then obviously they're not going to lower the price. But time will tell on that front. But it is going downwards a little bit. But again, we have to really see until it's fully released, fully out there to really get a better gauge of what the price action may be. Going on now to the K7, it did drop down a little bit. But again, as we've been saying with this guy, and like how we mentioned last month with the KA3, they're pretty much one restock away from getting a significant price reduction, right? At this point, this is about the price I paid for it. It's closer to 4,200 is what I picked mine up at the beginning of the year. This is not a bad price, but keep in mind that if Bitmain does like what they just did with the KA3, this guy can restock and potentially become uber cheap, right? We're going to talk about the KA3 here in a second, so you can see what I'm talking about in case you missed that update. One other funny one is that I kind of forgot about this guy, right? When I was doing, a lot of those hash rate predictions with the KA3 coming out and what it would do with the price. A lot of you guys were thinking I was crazy because this guy came out in January, right? And based on what we're looking at, it's pretty much calling it that don't be surprised to see this thing have a significant price drop after it becomes unprofitable, after that KA3 dropped, and it did, right? It became pretty much unprofitable shortly after the KA3 really dropped, and then it went from the $3,500 MSRP, and this is things down to $1,000, right? So something to keep in mind, and this is a good example of why you got to do your research. You got to look at things and, again, look ahead of things. Don't just, oh, there's no way that's going to happen. Do the numbers. Calculate things yourself. Do different predictions. See where things go. So this guy, and this is what we were talking about last month, also is that, again, this guy in the K7, kind of trading them the same because they came out similar times, similar efficiency gains, etc., etc. But this is what we had been referencing, right? For whatever reason, the price on this guy stayed pretty high. A lot of the resellers still had it at like over $7,500 until this restock happened, right? And that's what we had been talking about, that as soon as a restock happens, it's going to drop. Wasn't expecting the price to drop that much. Was expecting the restock to happen and for it to go maybe slightly under the MSRP, maybe go down to like 5K. Well, we got a double whammy, right? We're getting this restock and it's like half the freaking price, right? Which is pretty nuts, right? So the July batch, they have it listed at 3,400, which is what most of the vendors have. They do have an August batch at 2,680, which is nuts. Again, this is why we're saying it's probably in your best interest to wait, and they just want to get rid of these things apparently, right? Right now, Kadena hasn't had the best price action. It's been in a slump, and it's just been hanging down there. So a lot of the hype has been dying out, right? So if it's a project you're into, though, I personally follow it. I'm personally into it. I think it's going to do well. Do I think it's going to go back to previous all-time high? Probably not. But considering how much it has dropped, even if it only does like a 5x, not a bad price, right? So something to consider there. But again, we do have to see how much it's going to affect the hash rate. Right now, it's only making like, I think, $4 profit a day. It's like 3 and change. So Something to keep in mind there, that the hash rate, the difficulty is going to go up, right? I don't think that many of these have got into people's hands yet, so it is going to go up. So whatever it's currently at, you're going to have to factor in that it's a high probability that it may just get to the point where it's break even, right? Because again, we do have a while for this bear market. We'll see how it all plays out. But crazy price drop. I did do a whole video comparing it for any guys who are interested in that. Let's go to the next one, and this one also had a good price drop, and it is the Z15 Pro, right? So the MSRP was the 3,000 bucks. They have the July batch down to 2,500. The better deal though, which now makes it something to potentially consider, at least for me, is that under 2,000 bucks, right? And this is for the August batch. So makes it somewhat more appealing, not necessarily there, mainly because just the profitability isn't the best. I think it's currently at like a couple bucks a day. Although it's been kind of weird though, like on mine, the ASIC, it's been fluctuating. There's certain days it's like $3.50, other days it's like barely $1. Ultimately, going on like other calculators, it does seem like it's closer to like the $3.50 range on Zen, right? So time will tell, but definitely at that price point, it is more appealing. And this is probably where the MSRP should have been from the get-go, just because the profitability is not there. It's not necessarily the most popular, both Zcash and Zen, but now may have to look at it, right? Let's go to the next one. And this one has been funny because a few days ago I did a video on the S19J XP, and it did go up slightly. Right, so last month when we did it, it was right under 1,600 bucks. It was like 1,590 something. I did that video sometime last week, and it did go up a little bit. It was at like 17 and change, 1730, something like that. Ultimately though, it did go back down, so it's down to 1,530, guys. So bang for the buck wise. Aside from the only one that is a better deal are those lower end S19s. Those really lower end ones though, those 90 terahash, 86 terahash, mainly because they've been had for like 800 bucks, right? So those are really outdated though, so that is something to factor there. But if you have a low electricity rate, you have the infrastructure to handle them, those are definitely the best deal. But these are kind of like the compromise if you're only getting like one or two, mainly because it's half the price of the XP, right? And it's fairly efficient. In low power mode, it's within like 10% of the XP, right? So the efficiency is better. Again, you could turn it back up. Something to consider, right? But for Bitcoin miners, at least from Antminer, bang for the buck wise is probably it. We'll see how much lower it goes. If it goes lower at all, this is potentially the low for these, right? We'll see how it goes on that front. The XP also did go down a little bit. It was like right under 3,300 last month. It is now just right above 3,000. They just, I don't know why they're not just, might as well just do the $29.99, right? Looks a lot more appealing that way, but it's at $3,090, right? So about 3,100 bucks. That is for the lower end one. Again, if you're deciding between both, I would definitely go for the lower end one, just bang for the buck wise. But it is at 3,000. But again, is it really worth that premium? Is the premium still worth it considering these guys are so much lower? Personally, I would probably rather get two of these, right? And even if, you know, the electricity is your concern, I would get two of these, run them in low power mode for now. And eventually in the bull market, put them up to full hash, potentially sell one. You're probably going to be able to make your money back on the one and just continue to mine on the other, right? So different strategies there. Again, not financial advice, just throwing ideas out there as far as bang for the buck. So will this guy go down more? Potentially, right? We've been hearing a lot of issues from the big farms with these, so time will tell on that front. Could that be part of the reason the price goes down? Possibly, but again, this guy is such at a crazy price. We'll see how it goes, and they still have yet to release that S19K. Pretty weird, right? So something to take note of there as well. One that went up, which is kind of weird, is the D9. D9 last month was like 3,600. Did go up to almost 4,600 bucks, right? Which is super weird. They do have used model listings for 3,355, which is more in line with what it should be new. A lot of the other stores do have it closer to this price point, so something interesting there. We'll see. The profitability is still kind of where it's at. Looking when I checked the overall hash rate and difficulty, been pretty much the same, right? Meaning that not that many people have purchased these. These things are sitting. So will the price go down more? Potentially, but considering Bitmain is still trying to price gouge at freaking 8,500 bucks, we'll see. If they were in a rush to sell them, we would have seen a price reduction here. Maybe go down to 5,000, right? Or 6,000 or something. But for them to try to relist them at $8,500 when they know nobody's buying them, kind of weird, right? Unless it's a very limited run. Maybe there's not as many or something. We don't know. Something to keep in mind there. One interesting thing, though, that just happened, yesterday? Yesterday, the day before. I don't even remember the day. But Whatsminer actually put up some for sale on their website, right? Which is something they very rarely do. They put up the M50S Plus, or the Plus Plus, excuse me. Again, with these horrible ass naming schemes. But they did put them up on their website, and it was interesting. That way you can see the actual true MSRP, which is pretty interesting. A lot of times we don't really get to see it, kind of get ballparks, and we base it off of what vendors are doing. But again, they typically sell like in huge batches to bulk buyers, right? So it's pretty interesting that they did make it available to the public and to be able to just buy one at a time, right? Which is pretty cool there. So again, this is for the S++. They did have the 140 all the way to 144. Although I believe they do have higher end models, but this is what it was available now to us. And the MSRP was 3,500 bucks, right? So pretty much in line with that XP price. It is slightly higher, but keep in mind these do tend to have a much better reputation, especially in the heat, especially in comparison to the XP, right? So something to take note of there. Is kind of cool to see the price point. And it says delivery after 7 days, right? Which is interesting because a lot of the pre-orders for these weren't actually for quite a few months. A lot of them were like Q3, Q4 this year. So I don't know if it's just like a limited run, because I did see listings for like higher variants, right? Like in the 150 range. So I don't know if it's just a limited run with these lower end guys. Maybe the big farms didn't want these and that's why they made them available to us. But it was pretty interesting for them to actually put them up for sale. Apparently they're still available. Let me try to add to cart. No, gotta make an account. Also keep in mind, if you are looking at these, if it is something you're interested in purchasing, there is a ton of scam sites for Whatsminer. Like if you just Google Whatsminer, ton of scam sites, right? Go to their official Twitter, right? Which is at Whatsminer_NBT. Go to the link from there. So whatsminer.com is the direct site, right? This is their official listing here. Make sure you're on their site. Don't just Google and go to the thing. There's a ton of Google search results that have fraudulent stores or fake stores. So just keep that in mind. Be very careful. Again, right now, ton of scams. Like scams galore right now. There's been a lot of interest in crypto again recently. So the scams are like multiplying, right? I'm sure you guys are noticing that as well. So yeah, guys, those are the main updates. Again, the biggest price drops, the best deal, the A9 Pro, man, 1,800 bucks. It's making it super hard to wait. I wanted to wait until possibly the fall to make a decision. And if I were to get one more, I do have room for one more, both electricity wise and budget wise, but I wanted to wait just in case there was a more of a last minute release prior to the halving, prior to all the price hikes. But these prices are making it super freaking tempting, and it's just something I keep contemplating, going back and forth. Should I do this? Should I do that? Should I wait? Is it going to go lower? Are all coins going to get wrecked between now and the end of the year? Are they not? Are we going to go up? A lot of things to think about, a lot of things to factor in, a lot of things to consider, right? So just wanted to give you that update, guys. Again, please let me know if you're thinking of buying any. Let me know, or if you've bought any, right? What are you thinking of? What are you looking forward to? Is there any that you're waiting for? Let me know in the comments, guys. If any of you guys are interested in purchasing through BT Miners, I do have a referral link in the description. If you're interested, right? Not trying to shill them on you, but I did, again, reference BT Miners. Again, they're one of my preferred vendors. In a lot of the cases, they did have the best prices overall out of all the big box stores. So something to keep note of there. They're being pretty aggressive with their prices currently. So yeah, guys, thank you for watching. Please comment, like, and subscribe, guys, and I am out.